Students, welcome to our today's lesson. And our today's lesson is invasion and settlement of European countries. Now, in today's lessons, we are going to learn about Scramble and Partition of Africa. Now, before we go further, it's best for us to understand the meaning of Scramble and Partition. Now, Scramble is uncontrolled rush for something. Uncontrolled rush for something. Partition, on the other hand, is simply dividing dividing something. Scramble, we have said, it is uncontrolled rush for something, maybe resources, a portion of land, a piece of cake, or something. Then partition is dividing something amongst themselves. Now, you can decide to divide a portion of land amongst themselves. Hence, therefore, scramble and partition for Africa means dividing or uncontrolled rushing for a piece of Africa and dividing this Africa among several European powers. And these European powers include the British, the French, the German, the Belgium, and the Italians. Now, we are also going to learn about the method used to acquire colonies. Now, methods, these are techniques, the means by which the European powers use to convince Africa so as they could take part in dividing Africa amongst themselves. Now, the first method that were used by the European powers to acquire African colonies was military conquest. Now, military conquest definitely use of an army. Now, some African communities were very stubborn and were very advanced, and hence it forced the Europeans to use military support to quell or to conquer African armies so that they could exercise power over them. Now, another one, treachery, which just means tricking Africans. Tricking Africans. Now, Europeans, we can say they were a little bit civilized and a little bit exposed. And so they would use that to their advantage as compared to Africans. Hence, they would lie to Africans and trick them into accepting to be colonized by Africans. Now, divide and rule is simply a form of making one community to fight against another one. Making a community fight against another one. Against another one. Now, unity is strength. Hence, when Africans will be united, it will become very hard for European powers to conquer them. Hence, Europeans devised a method of making one community to fight against another community. Now, this would even ease their military or their army in quelling or conquering African communities. Now, for example, in Kenya, if the Luos are against the Luyas, they were in the same geographical location. Therefore, it means that the Luos will go and fight the Luyas. Now, the Luyas will be weak. At the same time, if the Luyas fight against the Luos, it means that the Luos will be weak. meaning it will be very, very easy for the Europeans to conquer the Luyas, or it will be very, very easy for the Europeans to conquer the Luos. And that's what it means by divide and rule. Another method that Europeans used to conquer and divide Africa is company rule. Now, the Europeans were not ready to settle in Africa. Hence, they had what you call companies. For example, we had British South African Company, SACO, or British East African Company, BIACO. These two companies were used to acquire resources and again administer in those different communities. Then final one is the use of treaties. Now treaties definitely means or basically means agreement. Agreements. Now communities that would want to be ruled or communities that would want to be protected against another communities, they will approach the European powers. Now, for the European powers to exercise that protection, then they would agree with the African communities and sign a charter or an agreement. Now, this charter would later force Africans to be under the European rule. Now, that is our lesson for today. I hope you've enjoyed your lesson. If you have any question, then you can put them on the comments below. Until next time, see you then.